First order of business is a public hearing wherein the public has been invited to comment on plans for proposed work to be done on the house and property at 9 Willard Place. I would remind the commissioners that generally speaking, we don't comment or engage in any kind of colloquy during a public hearing. In this particular case, there appears to be a disagreement with the applicant and a neighbor, and we don't get involved in that either. That needs to sort itself out, and City Attorney Victoria Polidoro will direct us further. So we will not be reviewing this application in the general meeting. This is just a public hearing. Who is here to represent the application for 9 Willard Place?
Andy Didio with Taconic Engineering.
Andy Didio, I think we know you.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Would you be able to share your screen or present any way you wish to talk about this application?
Sure, I'll do a screen share. So if everybody can see that. 9 Willard Place in Hudson. So last meeting we were before you for some exterior modifications to the building, and the plans have since been updated. So we wanted to give you a sense of the existing condition. So there's the house from two different directions, the existing condition plan. Our first appearance, we had that kind of courtyard area, as we talked about, has gone away. And the proposed front porch, right now there's a narrow front porch stair that comes down. So the intent would be to widen that to the full width of the building, and then just provide a walking path down to the existing concrete stair. The porch on the northeast side would be removed and replaced with railing. And you'll see there was some discussion at the last meeting about the railing style. So we've gone back to the ownership and the architect, and they've decided to go to a wooden spindle balustrade. And so you can see that's been carried throughout in the upper balcony, as well as the expanded porch on the front and on the porch replacement on the rear. The other exterior modification would be the addition of 2 windows on the, I guess would be predominantly west elevation. So right now those, you can see in the existing condition photo, we have these six windows. So we'd have a window on either side of this fireplace that comes up through the dining room. Right now there are currently no windows in the dining room. So the intent is to allow natural light to come in on either side of that chimney. And they'll be constructed to match the existing window. We are proposing a Marvin double hung elevate window. It's a wood window. However, it is clad with fiberglass on the exterior. So it's a white finish with fiberglass cladding. So it's not as the edges aren't as sharp as like an aluminum clad, or certainly like a vinyl window, but just they give that kind of wood aesthetic, but the maintenance element is much more favorable, obviously. So the interior of the window is wood, natural wood. The whole window construction is wood, but it's just got a thin veneer of fiberglass on the exterior to protect it. And those are the updates that we have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, please, but from the public, please, not the commission. Anyone? Darn.
Sorry, I was on mute. This is Bill Hurst. When were these revised plans submitted to the commission, and have they been made available for public review? This is the first I'm seeing them.
I'd love to answer you, Bill. I actually don't remember when these came in or whether they came through Craig or Andy or whatever. This is the first exposure, I think, of the revised plans to the full commission.
It is, yeah, and they were submitted, what, last week?
Okay, so for the record, I want the record to reflect that the first time we're looking at these plans is today at the commencement of the public hearing. And these plans are different than the plans that have been in the record up until this point.
Yeah, so to point out the differences to the commission, it would be the balustrade. So
And the windows.
The Marvin windows and the window placements have been the same from the last meeting to this meeting. The only revisions that have been made based on comments from Mr. Bowl were the metal railings and the aesthetic there to switch to a wood balustrade.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your question, Bill. Anyone else want to speak in?
Got another question, actually, Chairman. Was personal notice given to the owner of number 10 Willard Place of this public hearing?
I would defer that to Victoria. I don't remember who made contact with whom.
Or any notice of this public hearing?
There was definitely notice of public hearing. I think it was through, I actually don't remember. Victoria, thoughts on that? You're muted.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Phil? Were you talking
So
about?
you're asking about if notice was sent to the neighbor. So, the public hearing was scheduled and you were at the last meeting, so you were aware that it was happening. But then in the meantime, the code does not require that the neighbors get notice. It requires that the notice be posted. And I was not responsible for doing that, but we can look into who did that notice.
I was and I did through the Register Star or whatever they call themselves, Space 360 or something.
Well, it's important that public hearings are noticed as required by law. I think we can agree on that and just set that point aside for now.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I agree. Any questions from other folks?
I do have additional comments on the application, but that may not be in the form of questions. Thank you.
Sure. However you want to go. This is opportunity for folks to speak out. And then we will, when everybody's done, we will shift to the regular agenda.
Okay, I don't want to hog the airwaves here, but I guess I'll just continue. So, as folks know, I'm an attorney with the Young Summer Law Firm. We represent Nick Levin, who's the owner of number 10 Willard Place, which is the adjacent property and the companion building to the one that's under review right now at number 9. As I mentioned before, it's not entirely clear to me what the application is these days. It's been submitted and then modified and then apparently resubmitted. So some of these comments may not be particularly pertinent. Some may. It's not clear to me what's actually before the board. To start with, I think that, I am going to incorporate by reference into this public hearing all of our prior written submissions on this application. And in that respect, I would just point out that there is both a private issue relative to the private easements, some of which are mutual, that affect these properties. And there is also a public issue here in that, as we've pointed out, the city of Hudson has imposed restrictions on the use and occupancy of the 163 square foot parcel that sits in front of number 10 Willard Place. So just a minor point of clarification that while there are private easement issues involved, and we certainly don't expect the commission to adjudicate those, there is a very public issue involved here as well. So I think we've beaten that horse to death in our prior submissions, so I'll leave it there. More importantly, for purposes of this public hearing, I think are the principles of compatibility set forth in Chapter 169-6 of the City Code, and how those would apply to this particular project. I think everyone on the commission is aware of the development history of these parcels. It was somewhat controversial. I think everyone understands that these two buildings were constructed as sort of an accommodation, and they are meant as companion or matching buildings in many respects. And while one can quibble with whether or not the design of those buildings is in fact directly compatible with the surrounding district, the fact is they're constructed, they're compatible with one another, and they were intended, it appears, based on their design and their setting, to have at least attempted to appreciate the park-like setting of this part of Willard Place, which is down at the end of a cul-de-sac. And obviously we know it is not a park as a matter of law because there was litigation over that. But in any event, turning to the standards that the commission is meant to apply to this application, it is the fundamental principle of compatibility. And we see in section B1 compatibility of design and character. And as one of the commissioners correctly mentioned and observed at the last meeting, and sorry, I don't remember if it was Mr. Chobel or Mr. Barrett, I think it was Mr. Chobel, these revisions do not look anything like the adjacent property and frankly do not look anything like the surrounding properties. And so you have here the continued Disneyfication of this property. You have alterations that will make it stand out like a sore thumb, and that is the opposite of compatibility. In terms of scale, we've already indicated that adding windows on the Willard Place side throws off, obviously, the balance arrangement of the windows that pre-existed. That is the publicly visible side of the building. So this is not an insignificant issue. And it is the side of the building that faces my client's property at number 10 Willard Place. So he gets to look every day at these incompatible and unbalanced window structures. Third, as to the rails, as to compatibility with neighbors in subsection 4, windows and openings are directly addressed. And so that's an issue that's right on the commission's plate in terms of making the compatibility determination. In terms of scale and balance, we now have this extended porch. We have these unusual railings. We have these different features that will make this house look like something it was never meant to be and something that doesn't belong in the district. And so for those reasons, I think that even setting aside the issues with respect to the easements and setting aside the issues with respect to the shared drainage features and dry wells in the areas that the applicant intends to excavate, or at least at some point intended to excavate, it's not clear what he intends right now. Given all of those things, given the fact that this commission denied a certificate of appropriateness for number 10 for a fence that was far less incompatible than anything being proposed on this project, it seems to me that there is a very large gap between the plans, even as amended, and the principles of compatibility that control this application. And so we would respectfully submit that at this point, the application is defective with respect to the easement issues and not addressing them. And frankly, that even if you look at this only with respect to the proposed alterations to the building itself, they are not acceptable under the standards and criteria that the board is meant to apply. And so that's where we stand on all of this. And those are our comments for the record.
Hi, Mr. Hurst. Can I just ask this? When was there a denial of offense for 10 Willard Place? Was that recent? Because I don't recall that.
About 2 years ago, Victoria. I have the file on that.
Okay, so it was a while ago. So for the board, we know that there are these outstanding legal issues. We're waiting on a title search to come back. Ms. Hines has ordered one with a title letter, and so we haven't seen it yet. So I'm still...
Just note that we have already submitted a title search for the record and an opinion of a title company.
Right.
So that's already before the board.
We're giving both parties the opportunity to submit documents, and I will review both. So.
And that opinion from the title company from the applicant was promised now 3 weeks ago to be imminent, and we still haven't seen it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't impact you, it impacts their application because they're the ones being delayed by it. So we'll just wait for it. And if it doesn't come, then their application won't proceed.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Hurst is complete, I think there's a couple things that warrant response. In the cities, the specific section of the code 169-6 talks about the compatibility with the neighborhood, with exterior modifications and the construction. There's nothing in the code that says that houses that were constructed next to each other and have a similar architectural intent from a Greek revival standpoint they need to match, right? The existing building has a porch with balusters, with railings, with a porch. The adjacent property does not. If there's a front balcony, the adjacent property does not. They do not need to match, and oftentimes I'm sure the board would agree that minor variations amongst buildings in a historic district adds to the character, as long as it's done in a historically appropriate way. Granted, this isn't a historic structure, but that meets the standards. I would say that wooden balustrades that really are in keeping with this type of architecture are 100% appropriate from an architectural standpoint. And then again, the windows, asymmetry of windows in a Greek revival building is not uncommon. The fact that we would like to provide some natural light into the dining room is really the intent here. And they're intended to be constructed in a way to match the existing windows. I don't think would be considered a major modification to the building. We're not trying to do new facade or change any colors. I mean, it's intended to be an improvement on the building. I don't think it changes the intent of the architecture. And as the front porch all the way across is a common architecture for this style of building and entryway. So I would submit to the commission that the arguments they made there don't hold water in my estimation. On the easement front, and Victoria, feel free to weigh in. Phil, you had mentioned that this won't be taken up in the regular meeting. I think we've got two competing factors here. Mr. Hurst has made comments about the architectural aesthetic, and then we've got the easement issue. The commission is not reviewing the easement issue. It's outside of the purview of the commission.
No, not quite. I mean, some of the improvements that you're proposing may be within an area that the city itself has restricted. And so that's why they're holding off.
Which would be what area?
163 square foot parcel in the front.
Right. We're not, again, that's not in the purview of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Well, of course it is, because it's in the historic district. Of course it is. If you're proposing
Bill, if I may speak with the attorney, please.
Ms. Hines is not here today, but I did, I would like to have a conversation with Ms. Hines, Mr. Hurst, once we have all the materials. I was hoping that Ms. Hines and Mr. Hurst could have a conversation amongst themselves and come to some kind of agreement, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Sure. So just as a matter of course, does the commission weigh in on or have jurisdiction over exterior walkways for a property? It is not in the commission's jurisdiction, right? So we're talking about a porch and some windows, right? And I'm not requesting that a decision be made today. I think what we would like is for the commission to address this in the regular hearing, discuss the architectural elements so that we can proceed with our design and get a sense from if any modifications need to be made or get any feedback from the commission on what's been presented.
Andy, I acknowledge that thought. I have a bias, and the commission has a bias towards action because people depend on us to give them our judgment. That said, I had asked my colleagues to wait till we had a clear direction from the city attorney that we were able to disaggregate in the application stuff that's in scope and stuff that might be in conflict or otherwise out of scope. And I don't have that judgment yet. Otherwise, my bias, of course, would be to proceed, but I've got to defer to the city attorney on how we disaggregate this.
So, I mean, I have no issue with the board discussing the revised plans for the windows and the
Not
balustrade.
on an agenda. Come on. I mean, let's comply with
Mr.
process.
Hurst, excuse me. The board is at a publicly noticed meeting. They can add items to the agenda. And in fact, the public hearing is on the agenda. So I have no issue with the board discussing it, but I would ask that they not make any recommendations until we have the title report back and I can give you guys, you know, a report on what's within and without of your jurisdiction.
I'd like to respond to Mr. Didio's comments. I'd like to start with section 169-5 of the code, which defines exterior alterations as any changes that affect the property. It includes landscape features. That's not a question. Secondly, direct the commission to 169-6B2, which states, in applying the principle of compatibility, the commission shall consider the following factors. 2, the scale of the proposed alteration or new construction in relation to the property itself, surrounding properties, and the neighborhood. Subsection 3, texture, materials, and color and their relation to similar features of other properties in the neighborhood. Number 4, visual compatibility with surrounding properties, including proportion, etc. So the suggestion that the compatibility factors don't mean that the building needs to be compatible with the one next door is wrong. It needs to be compatible with buildings next to it. It needs to be compatible with buildings in the district. And some generic statement to the effect that Greek Revival buildings have large porches does not meet that criteria. Those are not the porches that are characteristic of this part of the city of Hudson, and that's the test. The test is compatibility. Nobody has said anything about matching. The test is compatibility. And as we know from commissioners' comments at the last meetings and from my comments this morning, none of these alterations are compatible.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess for the commission's standpoint, I would have to wholly disagree because it is 100% compatible in the sense that they're very minor modifications. You have an existing porch with balustrades that are very simple. We're adding balustrades that are more in keeping with the building. Essentially, you're talking about 2 windows that are adding natural light into the dining room that are compatible with the architecture in that you're not making major modifications to the building. It's compatible as it is currently. The moldings around the windows, the shape of the building, we're not changing the compatibility of the historic nature or aesthetic of the building. It would, in its constructed state, it would be as compatible as it is now as far as how the two look similar. We're not changing the historic or architectural aesthetic of the building at all from a compatibility standpoint.
I think that back and forth on this has been useful, but just a couple comments. I really don't feel prepared to put this on agenda for discussion. I really do want judgment from the city attorney just to confirm scope. And I really do want this on the agenda in about 2 weeks. But the comments and discussion in fact have been interesting and I think very useful for the commission to hear. Are there any other folks who want to speak out?
Mr. Kopnicki has his hand up.
Okay.
I'm turning it over to Matt McGee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Matt McGee will speak.
Yes, this is Matt McGee. I wanted to say that it would have been helpful for the public to have known what was happening today in advance. And in New York City, ordinary things are put up 3 days in advance of the hearing for the public to see, even if it isn't a public hearing. And when it's a public hearing, they're put up, I believe it's 10 days for the public to review so they can respond. I think that these things would be useful to execute here. Maybe lay people, it may not, but it would be the right thing to do. And I think for the public to speak about something, they need time to have to make a judgment based on what is being offered. And we had a quick flash on the screen showing these balustrades. The windows are not new, but the balustrades are. And this is not a terribly significant matter, but it's significant as part of procedure. It's really not adequate. Thank you.
Matt, here's what I think we will do. We have the revised plans from Andy, and I thank him for that. I'm going to ask Rebecca to post those plans on the city website. And I'm noticing, folks, that it's our intent to have this on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Will you be continuing the hearing for 2 weeks?
We can do, Victoria, if that would be useful way to
That's my
proceed.
recommendation. If people are interested in seeing the plans and making comments, since you have to wait anyways.
After the president.
Okay. Why don't we do that? That's a great suggestion. Why don't we post the plans whenever Rebecca gets a chance? We'll have that up on the city website, and we'll have a continuation of the public hearing. Does that require a separate set of notices, or is this discussion sufficient notice?
Continue, right. If you discuss it now and everyone agrees that it's going to be held at the next meeting at a particular time, 10 a.m., then that is sufficient notice.
Okay.
What
Would
is
that
the-
require a vote from the commission?
Say that as well in your motion. Hold on.
Mr. Chairman, before this is Ronald Kopnicki. I just wanted to make one further comment. I was checking the city website repeatedly, continuously yesterday for the agenda for today's meeting. To the best of my knowledge, the agenda was posted somewhere between 11 p.m. yesterday and 12:45 a.m. early this morning. Because I checked it around 11 p.m. That was my last check. Nothing had been posted. I checked again finally before going to bed, and it had been posted at 12:45 in the morning. And I really think, you can improve on when you post items in advance.
I totally agree with your comment. Just to understand, and for what it's worth, we are not planning or zoning with 2 or 3 items on the agenda. We get dozens of items coming through, sometimes quite late in the week. I sort those out with Craig on each item and determine the agenda as soon as I can and post it as soon as I can. But sometimes we do take the opportunity to give people a chance to get their work underway. We're the busiest commission in the city. We have had as many as 15 or 20 projects per month. And if we are not inclusive and don't move people forward on the agenda, we create problems. But your point is well taken, of course.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other public comments, I would follow city attorney's suggestion and make a motion that the public hearing be extended into 10 a.m. On Friday, 2 weeks from today. I will make that motion. May I have a second from the commission?
I second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
There are no commissioners opposed. The public hearing will be continued into the meeting 2 weeks from today, starting at 10 a.m. And the plans that Mr. Didio presented will be posted on the city website as soon as we get a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. If there's nothing further, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing. I will make that motion. May I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
The public hearing is adjourned. Thank you all, and you're welcome to stay on board for our regular meeting. Okay. Regular meeting of the Preservation Commission is called to order. The commission will review draft minutes. Rebecca, I think we made some last minute changes on those minutes, and I'm not sure it got to everybody. I sent it out, but it could have been late. Would you be able to share your screen with that?
Can you see them?
Yes, Ken. Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Yeah. I'll just slowly scroll.
Thanks very much. Commissioners, if you want to double check anything, we can scroll back. And I believe I also sent out the revised minutes this morning. The reason for the revision was just a technical point to be sure that on the C of A votes, it just stated that it was a C of A vote, not quote unquote an application. It was, I asked Rebecca to make that change fairly late, in part because it was helpful, and in part because I was having a really bad day with my dog Bob. So that's how that went. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as prepared by Rebecca Bohr?
I make that motion.
Thanks very much,
second.
Paul. And a second to you. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Minutes are approved. Thank you so much, as always, Rebecca.
I just wanted to say I was able to put the documents for 9 Willard Place up, so they should be up on the website now.
Terrific. That was quick. Thank you so much for doing that. We have 3 certificate of appropriateness votes. These are just the conclusionary certificates prepared by City Attorney Polidoro at our request, 427 Warren, 35 North 3rd Street, and 201 Union Street. So one at a time. A motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness as prepared by the city attorney for 427 Warren Street.
I make that motion.
Paul, thank you very much. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None. Approved. Motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 35 North 3rd Street.
No,
Any-
again, that motion.
Paul, thank you. A second, please. Hugh, John, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. 35 North 3rd Street is approved. Motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 201 Union Street.
And wait, I'm sorry, just before everyone votes, this application was actually dated 204 and the map says 206. So if Mr. Chatham did though submit an email that clarified that he intended 201.
Yes.
So just so there's a paper trail.
There's a paper trail, and for folks who were following some great old buildings in the city, I believe this was Timothy Dunleavy's house at one point, where he started a fair amount of work, which he passed and never got completed. So that address was correctly 201. Motion to approve the C of A for 201.
Motion.
Motion.
Thank you
Second.
very much. I lost track.
Few seconds, you know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Rebecca, did you get that, or?
I got the second, but who actually made the motion?
I did.
Okay, that's what I thought. Great.
Thanks very much. Moving to certificate of appropriateness applications. And I'm going to try to start with signs, as we typically do, and then raise the complication as we go forward. First up is a sign for 558 Warren Street. Who's here to represent 558 Warren Street?
Hey, Phil,
Yes.
it's Craig. Is that supposed to be 558 or 538?
I believe it's supposed to be 538.
I'll take it.
I'm here for 538. Doug Huntington from Barless Wedlick Architects.
Doug, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, and I'll share my screen. So this is a sign application for a previously renovations you previously approved in some subsequent meetings. The plan here is to add one projecting sign on the elevation here near the second floor windows, and then two window decals, one on the entry to the business, and then one on the storefront glass here. Both of those, I have kind of a zoom in version here. Both the graphics here are going to be 4 inches in height on the door, and the storefront with the hanging sign above being clad in a wood sign clad in copper with a metal bracket.
Okay. Someone's not feeling well. Thanks, Doug. Any comments or questions on the sign? Okay,
Looks good.
Yeah.
thank you.
Nice sign.
I agree. It's a beautiful sign. Okay. May I have a motion to find the application complete?
I'll make that motion.
Paul, thank you. In a
A
second.
second, Hugh seconds.
Few seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to waive a public hearing and request City Attorney Polidoro to prepare a certificate of appropriateness.
Aye.
Hugh?
Yeah.
And a second, please.
I second.
Miranda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Done. We go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And apologies on the address, but we got it right.
No problem.
We had an item that got skipped over in transposing an application, excuse me. The application was in fact submitted to Craig on time, et cetera, my mistake. And it's an awning for Park Place. Is who's here to speak for Park Place, an awning?
You're muted, guys.
Sorry. Hey, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is Tony and Carolyn from the Hudson Roastery. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We submitted an application to install a 10-foot awning below the letters of our facade. I can show you a picture of the store.
All right.
And the awning is going to be below the lettering, extending the entire storefront. It's going to be a chocolate canvas color, a duck canvas, water repellent. It's very benign. No other metal or anything shiny is going to be extending off of the awning. It's just going to be retracting in and out to offer shade as the sun arcs over in front of our store.
Okay. Commissioners, please, unless Craig says otherwise, this meets all the specifications per code, so we don't need to do a dive on code appropriateness, just on the sign.
Looks good.
I think it looks good as well.
Being sun sensitive, I like an awning.
Great, guys. Thank you.
Being a coffee addict,
Mm.
I'm delighted you're here.
Oh, thank you so much. We are too.
Okay. A motion to find the application complete for roastery awning.
I make that motion.
Paul, thank you very much. And a second, please.
Second.
Thanks, Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. A motion to waive a public hearing and request city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness, which we would vote on in 2 weeks.
I make
Paul,
that motion.
and a second, please.
Second.
Anybody? Miranda, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you very much. And onward with your awning.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We have a fence, I believe, at 204 Union Street. Who's here to speak for 204 Union? Ladies and gents, a fence at 204 Union Street. If no one claims it, we'll move on to the next application. No one does claim it. A fence, 251 Allen Street. Who's here to speak for 251 Allen?
Hi there. My name is Joe Vernon.
Hi, Joe. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks to the commission for hearing our application. Appreciate that. Perhaps since I see other people sharing screens, it'd be best if I do that just to kind of give a picture of what we're looking at.
Oh, please do.
Okay. So are you able to see that?
Not yet.
Right.
Oh, there it is.
There we are.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the front of our B&B, which I know Paul Barrett knows well. It is, and you can see off on the left side there, there's a white picket fence, and I'll give you a closer view of that now. The fence predated our purchase, but we have recently replaced it with like for like because the fence unfortunately was old and many of the pickets had rotted and it was in a state of deterioration. So it ran, I'm going to say roughly 80 feet from the back of the house out to the front on the east side. And so we've gone with a pine fence and then painted it the same color that the fence was initially. What we're applying for to the commission is to extend that fence. And I'm just going to show you a quick, just kind of a sketched on survey. So the green here shows you where the existing fence is on the east side. When I follow up along here, this 20-foot stretch here would be kind of in a continuation with the exception of approximately 6 feet. That's a path from this parking lot that leads, there's a little walkway that leads to the front walk. So we'd like to use the identical fence, go out to the sidewalk along the property line, and then we would like to follow along the sidewalk on our, I'm sorry?
I think it's in your backpack.
Are you able to see it?
Keep going.
Okay, we'd like to follow along the property line on the front. It'll be approximately 60 feet, and then we're going to come over to the yard, to the front walkway. We'd like to put in a white picket fence gate, probably a French door style gate of the same height, 3.5 feet, that would latch. Continue again along to the property line, and then there's a little stretch here that would just join a white picket fence on the adjoining property. It would just kind of close up that gap. The reason that we're requesting this is twofold. The first is we think it'll be attractive for the property. There's something kind of charming about it. And since there's already a white picket fence on one side of the house, we'd like to have it wrap around the front. We think it'll be aesthetically pleasing. The second is just, it's a matter of, not, I don't know if it's privacy is the right word, but we have one of the few lawns in the area, and I understand that a lot of folks have dogs, and it seems like our lawn has become a magnet for dogs. We like dogs, but we'd rather they don't relieve themselves on our lawn, and we think having a simple, small fence will discourage that. So this is our proposal.
Can you show us the front of the house again, please?
Absolutely. So we're talking about running right along the sidewalk here, and then in this area, that's where we would want to put a double gate.
Okay. And this is a low picket from at least the visual.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be identical to what it's 3.5 feet along the side, and then it would be the same. It's called French Gothic is the style. It was the closest that we come to matching what was there with available materials, and we would continue that. It's a high quality fence. The posts have been sunk in with concrete by a local contractor. I think he did a nice job. So it's sturdy and I think attractive.
Paul Barrett, you have your hand up?
No, I don't. But I like the plan very much.
I do too.
Looks good.
No other comments. Motion to find the application complete.
I make that motion.
Thank you very much, Paul. And a second, please.
Hugh.
Hugh, thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Motion to waive a public hearing and request the city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Paul. And a second, please.
Hugh.
Hugh, thank you very much. Hugh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Passed.
Great. Thanks very much to the commission.
Thank you very much. We're at 251 now?
No, we just did 251.
Terrific. Thank God my head is clear. 526 Union Street, porch.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lee Armstrong, and I'm an architect. Barbara Bell is the owner, and she's with us this morning too. And thank you for taking the time to hear our application. I guess this is when I screen share.
Please do.
Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so this is the existing front porch, and I don't know, how long your memory is, but I know Miranda remembers this because she lives across the street, I believe, right?
Yes.
So we were before you 3 years ago. We did new windows, siding, and at that time you can barely see it in the picture. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it used to be siding that went up to the cornice, and we knew there had been some kind of an architectural feature under there when the house was built, but when we took the old aluminum siding off, nothing was left. So we did a little research and we tried to develop a cornice detail. There's brackets there. You can barely see that one in the burgundy color. We added that. At the time, the porch was holding together, so we decided to wait. But since then, there's been some real structural problems. There's no foundation that I can tell really that's underneath it. I'm not sure what's holding it up. So it's time to redo the porch. I don't want to say replace in kind because I don't know that there's an incredible, architectural integrity to what's here, but we are going to the footprint is going to stay exactly the same. And we just want to upgrade the materials a bit. We'll be replacing columns. We'll be keeping the columns on a plinth as is shown here. The railing, we're upgrading it a bit. I mean, my sense is when this was built, it probably had a low balustrade. It didn't have the code required 36-inch. And sometimes I think when you take those fancy turned balustrades and stretch them up to 36 inches, they look kind of strange. So we're going to keep a fairly simple railing system. Where the newels will be upgraded a little bit so that they'll have a base detail, but it'll be a pyramid cap. And we're more or less going to match the cornice here, and it's a low pitched roof. So let me switch to the plans, and not that let's see. Okay, can you see the plans?
No.
No, not yet.
Okay. About now?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So, so this shows the same footprint. The front door is going to remain. It's actually a beautiful sort of a federal. It's got a nice surround to it. That stays, and as you can see, the front door is a little bit, off center to the overall width of the porch. But the columns remain in the same place. The stairs are the same. There was a discussion with Craig, is this really a replace in kind or not? Because I think there was probably something nice at one time. And I just, we don't want to replace the 2x4 railings. We'd like to do something a little bit nicer. So here you see the side elevation, front elevation. I've got some details drawn, and I did just a little preparation of the materials. So let me switch to show you that. Okay. Okay, so these are the columns we'll be using, but they'll be up on a little plinth as the drawing showed. We're matching the capital and the base to the columns that were there. This is the newel.
Excuse me, but I can't see your screen any longer.
Oh, well, thank you for telling me. So let me see what I'm doing wrong here. How about now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, so let's start again. These are the columns we'll be using, and we matched the capital and base of what's there. The columns will be up on a little plinth, as the drawings show. These are the newel posts with a pyramid cap, and you have to sort of just look at the middle part of this material to show that this is the shaft of the newel, and this is we'll have a base board and some base trim. we're going to use from Vintage Woodworks, a wooden handrail system that sheds water better than what was there. So we think it'll have some longevity. And the ceiling of the porch, which you don't really see in the drawings, but it'll be a beaded soffit board, and it'll be the narrow dimension, which is more historical. And then finally, for the porch flooring and the stair treads, I'll show you when I stop screen sharing. I have a little sample that I can hold up. We found a sustainable bamboo material that's heat treated, so it's got a long lifetime warranty on it. A little bit, the graining of it reminds me of the old fir that they used to use on porches, and it will ultimately weather out to a very taupey gray, which is the same color as the siding. I think it's a great material. And then just a guttering is shown here at the bottom. That's it. Any questions?
I have a question. The existing plinths or bases of those columns are somehow part of the existing column that appears to be not tapered. The existing column is not tapered.
Let me go back to the photograph.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see cementosis on that column. It's not as straight.
Okay, I can't quite tell from this, but that, and I'm not. I think it should be a tapered column. I think that's perfectly appropriate. I wonder if you would consider eliminating that the plinth or the base on which those columns stand, simply because it just seems to be kind of an odd duck. Typically, we associate those full height columns, as in the photograph that you showed of the example, actually sitting on the porch floor rather than on the plinth.
Well, or what's funny to me about this is that the plinth it's out of proportion. You know what I mean? Like that could be a much taller, almost the height of the railing, right? And then a shorter column, but that's more craftsman. I'm fine with that. I don't know if I'm sure Barbara, I don't know if you want to chime in. I'm fine with that. I think it would look fine. I think if we do that the columns need to be a little stouter.
Yeah, I didn't see the diameter that you proposed.
Yeah, they're 8 inch, and I might go to 10, and it gets a little close here for 10 inch, but I'll play around with it.
I agree. I think a 10 inch would be more appropriate.
Yeah, it's 9 feet to the underside there of the beam, so that's sounds about right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Lee, per Chip's comment or suggestion, you're comfortable with that? That's a go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
What's the process? Do I resubmit with the 10 inch or
no,
when we come? Okay.
What we're going to do is we'll accommodate that in the certificate of appropriateness. So when the city attorney drafts that, we'll refer back to the minutes of the meeting, and those details will be incorporated.
Terrific.
I also wanted to ask about the skirting that in this photograph is red lattice work, diagonal lattice work. I just didn't see what you're proposing.
Okay, so, so first of all, it's not going to be diagonal. We're proposing straight. And I did a little colored, we're not going to do the columns in this burgundy. We just feel like it's not working at all. So if we could talk about color for a minute, we find that the sort of tuxedo look of the black window frames with the cream trim really sets off nicely with the taupe. So we're going to keep the columns in the cream color, do the railing in the black. Okay, the newels will be the cream color. But then we were thinking, well, we want to pick up, we do have this burgundy and these corbels up above. There's a tiny corbel, I don't know if you can see it in the photograph there, that is original. And we're going to salvage those and reinstall them. We'll certainly do those in the burgundy. And then I was, sort of thinking, well, is the burgundy going to look like an orphan? Should we pick it up again at the base? I don't, but to tell you the truth, I don't know if I'm in love with it. I guess if let me take it off a screen share. And I can show you my little coloring project. And so it's, really all black and cream and taupe, right? But the lattice is a square lattice rather than diagonal. And I was showing it burgundy, but I wouldn't mind it being taupe. And just having the brackets colored.
Okay. Lee, we tend to opine very little on color.
Color. Well, it's
a journey we don't have to take, and
right.
try not to. So,
some of this is, I think it's nice to make that decision when it's up. Work a little bit more organically that way, and maybe even do a little sample of the burgundy on the lattice and go, yeah, it's working, or no, it's not, and then make that decision when we're done.
Chip, did that answer your question on the skirting?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Phil, this is Craig.
Go ahead, Craig.
Lee, how you doing?
Hi.
On your plan, page A3.
Yes.
Your columns are indicated as 8-inch.
Yes.
If you're changing that to 10, then yes, you will need to resubmit just that portion.
Oh, I'll resubmit the drawings to you. Absolutely.
I just want to make sure we get that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Craig. May I have a motion to find the application complete? Anyone?
I make that motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Application is found complete. May I have a motion to waive a public hearing and request the city attorney to prepare a certificate of appropriateness?
I make that motion.
Thank you very much, Paul. And a
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None. Passed. Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you so much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Terrific. We are at, I hope, 45 North 7th Street, fence and deck. Who's here to speak for 45 North 7th Street?
Nathaniel Gelb, property owner.
Nathaniel, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. So you've been on for a bit, and you know the drill. At the appropriate point, you should share your screen and take us through the work.
Sure, I will do that right now. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, just give a little background first before I dive into the architectural plans. So we have this yard, basically. That's we want to make some changes to. As you can see, we've got a white fence, plastic laminate, wood underneath, and then we've got let me move on to the next one here. This is the other angle of it. We've got a door that opens to it without any sort of stairs or anything like that coming to it. Whoops. Okay, and then this is the other side of it, or just looking at it from this side. And then we've got the other side of the house where we have another yard, and then we've got a little bit more of that fence. So one, we want to replace that, what we find to be pretty ugly fence with natural wood fence, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the other aspect of the project is, here's a look inside that corner yard there that I showed you in the beginning. As you can see, there's this kind of deck that takes up a good portion of the yard. We have a 2-year-old son, and we want to have a little area for him to play in. So we want to remove that deck to make it really just a play area for him, fill it with grass sod, so we can have a little bit of a yard for him to play around in. We haven't maintained this yard yet because it's totally inaccessible to him. So apologies for that, but it will be maintained once we adjust it. And then we've got this window here. The only access point to this yard is through this stairwell here, or if I go back to the original, there is this other access point to the yard here, which is only from the outside as you're coming in by the front door. So we want to change that by making first of all, removing this deck entirely and replacing it with a little balcony here off of this sliding patio doors. Not a balcony to really step out and be out on. It'll only go out like about 11 inches, but mainly doing that so that we don't have, so that it's safe for if we were to open the patio doors there, he can't fall out. Basically just protecting that space without having to remove the patio doors. But we also want to put a door in here. I don't know if you can see my cursor where this window is currently. Replace this window with a door that comes off of our dining room. So to make the yard itself much more accessible to us and to Giddy and our son. So that's the background. Let me go back to the architectural. Let me go to the architectural plans now. So you can see, yeah, like I mentioned, replacing that deck with this little tiny balcony here with the really sole purpose of protecting so that if we were to open up these patio doors, it's safe. And then again, opening up this yard, landscaping, making it really much more of a yard for him to play in than it is right now because of that deck that takes up the entire space, adding the door there to replace the window, like I mentioned, and then fully closing that yard with the new fence, removing the door, fully enclosing it so that, when he's playing there, he can't just go out and walk around town. So it'd be fully enclosed. And here's that covers the yard or that side of the project. And then just in terms of the fence that we want to replace the existing vinyl fence with, natural wood hemlock fence. I have some pictures of it. So of representation of what it's going to be. So let me jump to that. So it's going to look, we want to do something kind of like this. Most likely, the only difference being, so it's standard, 6 foot wide, 1 foot high boards that are going to go 6 foot high, and then 1 foot at the top additional with 3 2-inch. So not as many as this, but this is just reference point. 3 2-inch boards that'll allow more space in to allow some light in there. So that's basically what we want to do for the fence. And then I could show you in terms of the balcony. We basically want to have it be as minimal as possible. So that's why we want to, one of the reasons we want to go with just metal cable across, because to allow as much light into the room here. This is our living room where that balcony will be. So allow as much light as we can, and also eliminate rot. So we don't have to worry about that basically if he does open the door. In terms of the door that we want to build on to replace the window, basically try to make it just like a window, big glass door. I don't even think you can really see that from the street anyway though, but that's basically what we want to do. So that pretty much sums up our plan.
Nathaniel, thank you very much for taking us through that.
Absolutely.
Could we go back to that drawing that showed the fence from the outside? Is it 3 different heights?
No, it's 2 different heights. It's 6 foot high of 6 foot wide by 1 foot high board, like this. I mean, again, this is not exactly. I'm not sure what width is. And then 1 foot high of 2-inch boards there will only be 3 of them, so not as many as this.
I think I got that. I just saw maybe the drawing. Maybe I misread.
Oh yeah, so the architect didn't. The drawings. Let me pull it. That's not exactly representative of it. Like as I said, this is just because he's not. We have a different contractor that's doing the fence, Oakwood Fencing. This is just.
Can you share the screen again? The thing I can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't. Nobody can see my screen.
No,
not right now. Just you.
Oh, okay. I don't know why that happened. Hold on a second. Let me pull that back up.
Nathaniel, so basically that's a 7-foot fence.
Yep, 6 foot high and then 1 foot of the open at the top. We currently have a 6 foot high fence.
I understand.
Yep. All right. Share screen.
But what Commissioner Schobel was saying, that it's multiple heights. My understanding, it's not multiple heights. It's 6+1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is represent just so that we can see what's behind it, right? It's not going to be.
Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Oh, is that better? I can zoom in.
Yeah.
This again, this is not a representation exactly of what the fence is going to look like, right? The fence is going to be 6 foot. Like again, the sample that I showed you, a reference point is where there is much more what it will look like in terms. It's natural hemlock wood, 6 foot, 1 foot high board that goes 6 foot high, and then like I said, the 1 foot at the top that is just going to be 2-inch board, 3 of them to go a foot. That'll allow much more space for the light to come in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, the natural hemlock is what we're doing there, or what we would like to do.
Yeah, I think the question is, when you look at the proposed fence from the street, in the drawing, it looks like the top of it steps down. But what you're saying is that it's really straight all the way across.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that's just, he just did that so to show the inside, basically. No, it's going to be all the way it's going to be one height. This is just to show the balcony, basically.
Okay.
Nathaniel, would you be able to revise that? Well, I'm not trying to hold you up, but as Craig pointed out before, just for our records, it would be nice to have an accurate sketch.
Yeah. Do we have to go through with you guys again, or is that just for the submission?
No, if you get that to me and Craig, we'll incorporate it.
Okay. Yeah, I can certainly have the architect do that. So you're saying to replace this shot with the fence all the way up?
With what's accurate.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And I guess I would make one other comment, which is, let me preface it by saying everything you're proposing is an improvement to this building. I know it very well. I live right up the street. So everything you're proposing to do here will help in the long run. But and maybe if no one else cares, then it's not that big a deal. To go, yes, certainly replace that ugly fence with the plastic fence with this wood fence. It's more aesthetically pleasing. But lifting the height of it from 6 to 7, like I think if you were to propose this fence to as new to surround your property in such a high fence in a city like Hudson, we might push back on how appropriate it is. So I don't know if anybody else cares at all, but it seems to me that adding another foot of fence is not optimal, and that we wouldn't normally allow them to do that in the front of their house.
Okay.
John, I should let Nathaniel answer. I believe that by code we can do 6+2. He could have theoretically.
It's not a code question. It was an historic preservation.
I understand.
Replacing the fence.
Yeah, that was my understanding too. Just that we could go up to 6+2, and basically for us it's a privacy / safety issue for our son. We just want to make sure that it goes a little higher for him. I mean, I obviously can't go 6 foot high, but if we have like a little trampoline for him in there or something, or like a little structure for him to play on, we felt a little safer having it be a little bit higher. And then again, the top foot, it's going to be much more see-through. So in terms of like the closed height, it's going to be 6 foot. So I don't know.
I don't have an issue with it personally.
Just a comment from code. There is no height restriction on fences in the outside of residential districts. This is in a commercial zoning district.
Great. Thank you, Kurt. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I ask for a motion to find the application complete with the exception that the applicant will provide an accurate drawing of that fence to code enforcement and myself, and we'll incorporate that in the final package. May I have that motion?
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion to waive a public hearing and request the city attorney to prepare a C of A.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Paul. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Hugh. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Approved.
Thank you very much.
Nathaniel, thank you so much.
Take care.
103 North Fifth Street, porch and siding. Who's here to speak for 103 North Fifth? Going once, going twice. 103 North Fifth Street, porch and work on siding. Not here. This project next is facade renovation with different elements at 51 Allen Street. Who's here to speak for 51 Allen Street?
Andy Didio with Taconic.
Andy, that sounds familiar.
Yep.
Welcome
back.
Oh, welcome back.
All right, I'll do a screen share. Oops, hang on. Everybody see my screen?
Got it.
Great. May as well do the full view. So we're here on behalf of our client who is looking to do some modifications to 51 Allen. We're working with a designer who started to give us some concepts for the modification. And as we saw them start to come in, we thought it would be prudent to come to the commission, get some preliminary feedback on what they're trying to do. So we've got some existing conditions. The east elevation, this is the front of the building. East, south, so it shows kind of some of the siding, vinyl siding. It's got this deteriorated front stoop, and then the north elevation showing it go down the hill. Here's again a rickety stair in the back, and then just another view down between the buildings, down the alley. So we've got a couple. Here's the existing front / east elevation. It's got that porch again on the front that kind of comes out and then steps down off of the side, vinyl siding, a few chimneys, and then the addition on the back steps down. So the concepts we've received would be we have two options essentially. One, their preferred option is to move the entryway to the side of the building, and we'll see that in the side elevation. New clapboard on the front portion, wood clapboard on the front portion. Put an addition, a second-story addition on the rear existing addition with a gable end roof, and then demo the chimneys that are there and put some shed dormers on the sides. Option 2 would be to maintain the front entryway. Again, this is the preferred option, but wanted to give, show them, would be to establish just a new stoop that comes directly down toward the sidewalk. Why can't I go to the next page? Oh, there we go. Okay. So here's your existing south elevation, kind of long expanse. There's that egress stair out the back. We've got some chimneys that would be demolished. The stoop that comes off the front and comes down sideways. So here's the option 1, which would flip the door to the side of the building. You can see the addition, second-story addition on the back of the building. Here's your shed dormer portion. Right now, the concepts we've received would be corrugated metal siding down this side, which would be kind of like the alley side between the two buildings. And then you can see the window, proposed window placements. Same aesthetic here, essentially, except for the front stoop comes out toward the sidewalk. One thing I do want to point out, subsequent to these plans being submitted, this says architectural shingle. We've got some photos toward the end of the presentation. They would actually like to do standing seam metal. So we'll see that in the photo examples, but it's too much. So here's just your rear elevation, that's egress stair, back porch. They'd like to do a stair that goes up into a new porch area up here with railings. Again, you can kind of see the different window fenestrations with the building addition on top. Shed dormers off the side. And then this would be the north elevation. So there's this existing overhang. The intent would be to put in this new screen porch above and below with the stair coming down. Again, an additional dormer. You can see the conceptual window placements, and then also vertical corrugated steel along the side. So your front facade would be that lap, the wood siding, and then corrugated metal on the sides. And so here's just an example of the proposed roof. Would be a standing seam. Some proposed back exterior stairs, the front and back, kind of industrial metal looking stair. And that's what we have for example photos. So happy to, again, just kind of looking for preliminary feedback on the design direction before we get too far into detailed drawing development, design development.
Andy, could I just say, my initial preference would be to keep the front door entry in the location where it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how any of the other commissioners feel. And I just want to talk about the removal of the chimneys. Are those fireplace chimneys or a furnace? Or what are they?
I don't know. I'll have to find out. I think, and it would be a guess. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Hang on one sec. I might have an answer. What's that? Furnace? Okay.
He's making that up. There was no one on that phone.
Yes, hello? Yep. It's a furnace chimney.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in. This, while it's very exciting to see this precious little building being reconceived and turned into what could be a great house, I think what's being proposed conceptually is pretty radically different than what is there. And perhaps even given the materials and given it is almost more like new construction. And I wonder if it might not be appropriate to get public feedback on this through a public hearing. I don't know, Andy, if the client is ready for that yet. So I
don't think so.
I know that I personally like the addition of the shed dormers would be for me. I mean, I don't know how far back they are. I guess I have to imagine how far back they are, but if it greatly distorts the character of that front facade, then I don't think we do lose a lot of the compatibility of that building with its surroundings. Could you go back and show me? And I don't think you can, it's very hard. Chip could probably guide us better, but it's really hard to understand. The shed starts that far back, so maybe it's not that. It looks like it's up close from the facade rendering, but then from the side elevation, maybe further back. Maybe it's not that big a deal.
You can see the dormers are proposed on the addition portion, which would be, set back. So here's the front of the building on the Allen Street side. So the dormers are set back. You can kind of see from where you are looking at the front elevation that addition that would extend up would be here. So they are set back. The aesthetic of the front gable end, the front portion of the building gable end wouldn't be impacted by it, but you potentially would have some visual of the dormers on this gable end here. We could provide more information on that as far as visibility of that if need be.
Say that to authorize something like such a large change to the building's elevation and to re-side it with a material that's not commonly used in any residential structures except one that is modern construction that I can think of in the historic district, I think would beg for a public hearing when we move to approve.
I agree. And I think that in this photograph, photo number 2, you can see the substance and of the original building with the pediment facing the street and the gutter line, the drip line coming down the left-hand side. There's a core of this building which is valuable in its historic presence. I think to install new siding on the left and the right-hand side of this building would be a mistake. It brings the new work that's in the back all the way to the facade in the front, and it makes the front just a facade. It's like, okay, we're going to live with our historic facade, but everything 2 inches behind that is going to be, we're going to blow off. I think that, in fact, you're keeping the roof line of this existing historic building. You're keeping the ridge. And one of the things I would suggest that you reconsider here is the concept of the shed roofs, because in part, you're thinking about those shed roofs as an addition to the new building, or I'm sorry, to the old building. But really the shed roofs are part of that new addition on the back. So architecturally, one thing to think about would be, let's restore and preserve this gem of a little building that we're seeing in this photograph number 2 and the front of it in number 1. But we see the full 3-dimensional aspect of it in photograph 1 and in photograph 2. Keep that, restore it, preserve it, and then build a whole new addition behind that, whether that's a 2-story or a 3-story thing or whatever that looks like, I think is another question. But I would begin to separate these two things so that we have a front historic section and we have a new addition behind that. I think that demolishing, my guess is, but I think it's worthy of further investigation to know, I'm basing this on an assumption, there's not a lot of value to what's behind this building. It looks like it's something that's been added to and, kind of cobbled together over time, and certainly not of the quality of the construction of the front part of the building. I would like for that to be confirmed by the applicant just in doing some exploration of what is back there. But I think architecturally, to think about this as 2 separate elements, an addition with the restoring the precious nature of that front portion, which is really quite charming and beautiful, could give you architecturally a free hand in the addition to the rear that is more clear than what's being presented here.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the use of the industrial corrugated siding and the horizontal windows and that very, very severe brutalist design is not really appropriate. I don't think it's gracious. I don't think it's as lovely as the front of the building. I think that we can do modern architecture that is also warm and friendly and appropriate. And it doesn't need to be this kind of, to exhibit this kind of a brutality in order for it to be able to state that it's a new modern thing. Mm-hmm. So I'd look for a different vocabulary for that addition to the rear of it.
But it is something that could be
it is something that could be frankly modern and not attempting to replicate an historical architectural style. So those are kind of my quick thoughts. Also, it looks like in the drawings that the chimneys might have some architectural significance to the original building, but I don't see them in the photographs, so I don't really know. I mean, you can't even see the two on that side, right?
Yeah, no, I think the rear furnace chimneys that are just, I think they're fairly narrow. You can see it here. Narrow block, just utilitarian.
Okay, so there are no chimneys in the historic, if you will, in the what appears to be an early or first half 19th century structure.
That I would want to confirm because our front elevation does show a chimney on the I guess that would be the north elevation.
Yeah.
To be removed as well, and I would have to assume that's on that front portion, but
well, I think the
I'll
chimneys are something that's in question, and I think also now that you have this drawing up, I think that the large double doors may not be appropriate for this, simply because this is probably a very modest Greek revival house. I'm guessing that. I don't really, of course, don't really know what's revealed underneath it, but the proportions of it look to me like it's an early 19th century building. It'd be super useful to take a look at to find some historic photographs of this building and see what the front door and front stoop may have looked like. Clearly, this is a building with a large basement windows. If those windows are original to the house, this was a building that was built well above the sidewalk. I don't know what the history of the sidewalk elevation is in this area. It would be curious to know if the sidewalk elevation had been modified since the original construction of this building. But I'd really love to see a preservationist approach to the front part of this building and a restoration approach to the front part of this building, because I think it's lovely. I think it makes an important contribution to the street, and I'd like to see some more information about the history of the building and its original architecture, because I think it's valuable.
Okay. And Chip, you had mentioned, so it sounds as though, Paul, you had mentioned your preference is front entryway. I would.
Yes.
And then presumably the rest of the commission would agree.
I think I would just agree with what Chip said, and it was maybe he articulated it much better than I did. The front part of the building is really important.
Yep.
And to us because of its character.
Yep.
To see it radically altered would be, we would just take, I think I would view it just like Chip did. What you plan for the rear is going to have a different scrutiny than what you plan for the front.
Yep. And then Chip, you had mentioned, like, say the corrugated metal, and then we're just trying to get a sense so we can again go back to the designer and allow them to digest your feedback. Is obviously you had mentioned the corrugated metal. As far as the window placements and that sort of thing, those are you're essentially saying restore the front portion, but there may be a bit of flexibility as far as window placement and that sort of thing, but it's got to be thought out. I mean, you see the long horizontal windows there. Can
I respond to that? Like, the commission is going to have multiple opinions on this, right?
Sure.
I think the more sensitive, what you're showing for the side, for the front, I'm going to take Chip's theme, take a preservationist approach to the original building, to the front. So that siding is not good. Moving the entrance would not work under that test. Those windows would not work on the front to the test. I don't know that you could not have something more, assuming it doesn't interrupt the character of the neighborhood, assuming that it's, I don't know that you can't have something. Yeah, I don't know that I would be so prescriptive as Chip was on the rear. And it may not be my taste, but I don't know that I care so much if it's not interrupting the character of the neighborhood.
I agree.
Well, I thank you, John. I'm with you on that. I just think that the use of a corrugated metal as and the horizontal windows, just the feel and the emotion of that rear addition is one of a kind of bunker mentality that's just not appropriate for it's just not appropriate for a residential application. I mean, in some industrial commercial applications, maybe in some other types of buildings, but we have a very warm, friendly building that addresses the street. And I'm not afraid, I wouldn't be concerned about exhibiting some contrast between front and back. Again, I think it would be a mistake to try to extrude the historic image of this building to the rear. I think it's useful to think about an addition to the rear, which is very modern and very contemporary and frankly of our time. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be as brutalist as this imagery is presenting itself.
And on the only thing I would say in response is two things. Number one, I would even find the source material that you were showing it not particularly compatible with Hudson, right? So you showed some modern houses. So I actually agree more with Chip than I disagree. The other thing I would say is on raw, but I definitely agree that it does not and shouldn't be some mockery of the front, right? And that it can be whatever the owner wants it to be as long as it's compatible. And I think we can help more. I'd also remind everyone about Rossman. I think it was 11 or 13 Rossman Avenue, where the front of a very large addition was planned. Actually, I don't know if it was ever built. A very large addition was planned. The addition was basically a series of glass boxes that came from behind the house, very different than the front. The house was, we took a pretty strict standard to the restoration of the existing original house, and a very different approach, a different standard to what was proposed. And I thought the result was very much what you were thinking, Chip. It was perhaps a more classic modernist aesthetic than what is being proposed for this edition. So maybe it would have been easier on the eyes and easier to defend as compatible. But I do think that that's something to consider.
Yeah, we did the design for structural design for the Rossman.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I thought it seems to be a great success in my opinion.
Can you see the rear addition from the street?
You can a bit. You've got this portion here. So here's the main front building. Here's kind of your straight on east elevation. But as you go between these two buildings, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of it down the alley. Yeah.
So
but
not,
the other
not
side,
not so much.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. This is definitely the predominant portion of the structure, that front.
But you can see the rear of the building from the South Bay, right? From all of that area below.
From like where the wick is, and I mean there are trees back there, so there is a bit of separation there, and but it is up on that hill. But yeah, what you've got down below is the Front Street area.
Yeah. I think the presentation of this addition to the South Bay and to Front Street and so forth is very important. I don't want to for a second suggest that that's less important than the Allen Street side of the building. So I'd like it to be fully considered. I think it'd be super useful to have a photograph of the existing condition across that rear, just as we would ask for a Allen Street photograph showing the compatibility of adjacent buildings. It's very useful to see this work in the context of the front and rear of these buildings.
Okay. Okay. I think that'll give us, this is very helpful. It gives us enough to go back and provide some insight. And then I guess the only other thing, standing seam metal roof. I mean, when used properly, it can, right, like you say, Chip and John, if it's used properly and in keeping with the neighborhood, it's an acceptable roofing material, correct?
I would guess that it's an acceptable material for the historic part of this building. I think we just obviously need to see it in context of everything else. I don't want to get into a specific approval of something without understanding the big picture.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, just want to give them design direction. Well, I appreciate you all taking a look and providing the feedback. That's, like I say, super helpful, and we'll probably won't be in the next meeting. It'll be a bit, but we'll see at some point.
Andy?
Yes.
This is Phil. I will, as soon as Rebecca and I have the minutes together, I'll try to get that to you too. This was a pretty detailed discussion, so I want you to have as much of that detail as possible.
That would be excellent. Great.
I will note to self. I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Andy.
You bet.
Chairman?
I hear voices.
Right. This is Ronald Kopnicki. Matt McGee and I would like to speak on this last item.
Of course. Go forth and speak.
Matt
will speak first.
The first thing to say is that we should have a public hearing with correct notice. It should not happen the way it did with the Willard Street. And the intended purpose designed for the buildings should be put online for the public to review before the hearing, and ideally 10 days before, at least 3, so that we have time to respond. And then I would like to make points about the view of the house. It's incredible when I go down and take the train to New York City. I have a view of my entire house, which is next door to this one. And you can see the whole row of buildings quite clearly. They dominate the skyline, all of them. There are no trees down below this house at Cross Street. There are trees below my house, which does block the view of it some. The Alger house is extremely visible. They're all in a row, and it's a composition. And then the other thing is that the little house itself, the main part of it, is indeed a Greek revival structure. And underneath the siding siding, which can be seen in one area where they've extended the basement entrance out. The original siding is exposed, and it's very broad clapboards. They're much wider than standard, and it's really quite stunning. The house is definitely significant on its own and should be protected. The back addition is added on later. There's one part of that, and then there's a really crude addition for a porch that's enclosed on the back. That was much later. The one is probably late 19th century. It could be later. But the primary thing is the front of the house, and it has a lot of its original material covered over. And this should be examined and thoroughly inspected before it is allowed to be destroyed or covered over. And I'm sorry I'm upsetting people, and you're on screen. But there's a need to do this so that it can be done in the interest of the city and the people living here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Ronald Kopnicki. First of all, second the call of Commissioner Schobel for a public hearing and the call of Commissioners Schobel and Bowl to approach this project from a preservation viewpoint. I live at 53 Allen Street, and we have Alger House 5961 Allen being worked on, and now we have the prospect of 51 Allen being worked on. I'm part of the context that you referred to. The house I live in is part of the context. You do need to consider the context of the street and the impact of these projects on the street, which is in a historic district, and the houses themselves have historic significance. And I'm just letting you know, if you didn't know already, that I'm very, very, very concerned and interested in what happens here. And again, there should be a public hearing on 51 Allen. Thanks.
Cool. Anyone else? Any other comments? Okay. I appreciate, go ahead.
This is Craig.
Sure.
Two things. I just sent you an email. 103 North Fifth should be on. They misunderstood. They thought that today's meeting was just a public hearing. And I researched that 204 Union Street on your agenda.
The other half the people thought it was a regular meeting with no public hearing. Interesting.
But 204 Union Street on your agenda is actually 201. I went back and looked at that. I don't know how that got mixed. I think Walter's got the whole entire wrong address on his application.
Walter had it wrong twice.
Yeah. So we researched that. So you've already reviewed it. It's actually 201.
Okay.
And like I say, 103 North Fifth, the owner of that property should be on.
I'm
Are they
on.
here?
There
I'm
she is.
here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lori Joseph.
All right. I didn't see you earlier. That's great. Please go ahead and talk about your project and share your screen when appropriate.
Okay. So 103 North Fifth Street is a family home. I grew up in the property. I'm from Hudson originally. I'm located right now in Northern Virginia. I'm buying the property from my family as a second home. And it's been in my family since 1967. And to my knowledge, my family is the second owner of the property. And prior to that, it was owned by the Washburn family, I believe, since it was built in the late 1800s. Mr. Washburn's name is engraved in the sidewalk out front, dated 1917. So I'm going to, what I really want to do with the front of the property is just a repair. Can I share my screen now?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't have anything fancy like architect drawings because I'm just the owner and I'm working with a contractor. So what I can show you right now, this is the existing look of the property, the front elevation.
We're not seeing it yet.
Is there anything I need to do on my end to show the screen?
Did you have to click share screen at the bottom of the Zoom? It's a green button.
Okay, hold on.
And then it'll give you options and you click on the proper screen.
Aha.
So now we're seeing your desktop.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Now that's it.
Okay, here we go. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is 103 North Fifth Street, which is on Fifth Street between Washington Street and Clinton Street. And this is the way the property looks right now. So the front porch just is really just in need of repair. I'm not trying to make any alterations to the look of the property. The only alteration I do want to make is replacing that aluminum siding knee wall in the front, and I want to do a rail system that would look similar to this. There is a little bit of sloping in the roof line above the front porch. You can kind of see when I toggle back and forth. And that, in consulting with my contractor, is because the column, the middle column, or the second from the left, is, I think it's a little bit rotted at the bottom. So that will probably need to be, the roof line will need to be propped up, and that one column will probably need to be either repaired or replaced. And so the idea for me is to just keep the house looking in exactly how it does look, with the slight enhancement of the rail system, and also to keep it in keeping with the other houses in the neighborhood and on the block, which also have a similar rail system, as you can see, to the house, by the house on the left and the right. This is the odd side of North Fifth Street between Washington and Clinton. And then this is the even side. So as you can see, these porches all kind of look the same. And as a matter of fact, the contractor I am using has done a couple of these porches, which is why I'm hiring him. So that's what I'm looking to do. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have specifications on the rails?
I don't. I'm in the beginning stages of working with my contractor, and he is the one who informed me that I probably would need to speak with you folks. So this is sort of new territory to me, and I'm happy to provide any
really
information.
Exciting that you're going to do this. It's a really cool story about this house. I don't think anybody will have a problem with it. I can't speak for them. But I think we do need to know what the rails themselves are actually going to be. Okay. I mean, I know the material is going to be wood. I have not decided on, and I don't know a lot of this construction terminology, but I think in hearing some of the previous conversations, those spindles are called balustrades. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Where's spindle?
Yeah.
Spindle. I like spindle. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do, a more decorative style like is shown in this rendering, or if you notice the blue house across the street, it's just really very simple and straight up and down. So we're in conversations about that right now.
I thank you for your presentation. It's a really beautiful house, and I think it's terrific that you're looking to restore the handrail of the porch. Clearly, this is aluminum siding that's been placed over that handrail. Was probably the whole house is aluminum siding, right?
Correct.
Over it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the beautiful woodwork that's above the second floor bay window that's out over the porch.
Yes.
This at one time, the entire house would have been beautifully appointed with exterior woodwork. The window up in the attic looks like it may be original, but that whole gable end of the attic was probably as articulated as the gable end that's over the porch. So this was really, I'm sure the interior of this house is really lovely and nicely appointed with a beautiful staircase. Hopefully it's still intact and so forth. I would expect that the handrail would be more elaborate rather than less. In other words, I wouldn't think you'd normally see in this house of this kind of quality and this kind of woodwork and this vintage, a simple square spindle. I think it would either be turned, such as what you're showing here. It might be an urn shape where it's bigger at the bottom than it is at the top. It might not be necessarily symmetrical. It's possible that you might even find a spindle or the original woodwork of this handrail behind the aluminum siding that's there now. Sometimes they might just have left it and wrapped it with aluminum siding. And certainly because this house has been in your family for such a long time, I would guess that you probably could find some original photographs of this house that might show a family portrait on the front porch and might give you some real documentary evidence of what that handrail may have been.
Yeah, well, my contractor, I'm sorry to interrupt. He's going to, he hasn't done this yet, but on the other side of the aluminum siding is just plywood that's been painted. So we're both very curious to see what is under there. He just hasn't gotten to the property yet to do that. But they're very well may be the original spindles there.
Yeah. And even if you don't find the original spindle, what you may find is a paint outline of that spindle when it was engaged in the column or in the original at the corner of the house. You might find a profile of the handrail and the foot rail and how that was all assembled. So you may find some physical evidence there as well as the potential photographic evidence, but I think it's, you know, it's a lovely home. Thank you very much for showing us this, and the restoration of that handrail would be a wonderful contribution to the streetscape and to the house.
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I neglected to say that the handrails for the stairs will also be upgraded and enhanced, as you suggest. Absolutely.
I'm not sure how we, I want to go forward, but there's some missing specification or detail that we sort of require or need, otherwise the system kind of breaks down. Craig doesn't have anything to work with from an enforcement point of view. To the degree that you can, if you had some old photographs, for example, going back as far as you can of the house, that would be a nice part of the application, particularly if it picks up some of the detail that you're talking about, or the detail that Chip was talking about. Just for the record, a good thing. And we do need some more specificity around the materials. Often, you know, I don't know where you're going to buy or make it, but either the contractor or Harrington's or whomever, usually there's a schematic or a drawing of each of the styles, whether it's a spindle or a railing that can be available just through the vendor who's selling the woodworking. Or your contractor might be able to pitch in.
There's also a website called mrspindle.com.
Oh.
I like that.
Which I do not receive a commission, but I find myself.
No, you do, John. I like that very much. Anyway, I don't want to hold you up. The commission doesn't want to hold you up, but we got to have some more stuff
Okay.
on the specificity. There's not going to, I seriously doubt there's going to be any issue whatsoever. Everybody's way enthusiastic that you're doing this,
Okay.
but I don't know how to proceed without some more specs.
I understand. I can get those specs. That's easy enough. In terms of old photographs, I've spoken with my mother. She recalls putting the aluminum siding on the property probably in the early 70s, which is what they did back then because they didn't want to have to pay to paint the house every 10 years. So, but we cannot find any photography. I don't think they took a lot of pictures back then, my family anyway. So as much as I would love to be able to provide that, I have not been able to get my hands on that.
Okay, just an ask, and we can poke around. Our distinguished and brilliant historian Paul Barrett might have some ideas on where we could find stuff, or sometimes Carol Ostrank at Gossips has pretty good access, but we'll try to include something like that.
Oh, that would be great. I would love to see that.
Okay. So I'm thinking that we're going to need you to. I don't know how much of an application you provided, Craig, but if you could add to that the specificity that we're talking about, and to come back in 2 weeks, that would be useful.
Okay, will do.
All right, Lori, thank you so much. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
we missed you earlier in the meeting, but this was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So, brothers and sisters, any other thoughts or comments? I suspect people want to adjourn and go on to their alternative existence. Other than HPC. I just a comment on timing. I really do understand what everybody's saying about getting materials up early and so on. I don't think anyone understands exactly how much volume comes at us on the fill end, or let's say the service end of the business, putting this together, or making sure that Craig has an opportunity to review this stuff, which he has to before I even onboard it. All that stuff takes time. And I have set intelligently or dumbly a priority of trying to handle as many applicants as possible, because otherwise we end up with meetings that are so overboard that people aren't even focused by the time we're getting to the end of the process. I'm totally happy to change the program and call an end to new applications much earlier in the game, if that's what folks want. But I want you to understand that will have a knock-on effect on how we come across in terms of public service and moving people forward. Same thing with public hearings. They're great. They're important. People really appreciate it. But with the new ownership of the paper, we used to be able to talk to somebody in classifieds. You talk to a computer now, and the deal is that code requires a full 5-day exposure prior to a meeting. But these folks also have sometimes a 3 or more day lag in terms of closing. So basically, if I wanted a public hearing, I'd kind of have to decide midweek next week and have all the materials in hand. Often I don't. So I'm hesitant to make an announcement when I don't know what's coming on board. I'm just complaining briefly because everybody else did. I'll recover. But you know, I feel like I'm in a TV show on the restaurant business, where there's me, Craig, and Rebecca and Shaheem setting the table as fast as we possibly can, trying to get the food out as fast as we possibly can, so you all can come eat twice a week. And I don't know if I can keep on doing it that way, particularly if you want a different timing scenario. just talking out loud.
If we don't do these, I mean, I'm not sure what you're proposing, but if we don't do these at, like, if we don't keep the pace of each meeting going, it's going to back up to the, like, there'll be a 1 6-hour meeting and a 1 30-minute meeting, and no one will be able to attend the 6-hour meeting. Like, I won't. So I think that we have to keep this pace.
If you have better thoughts on managing the workflow, jump in.
I think, first of all, I agree with your sentiment completely, Phil, about moving projects forward and our public service aspect of not being obstructing people from moving things forward. However, I think just from a simple management point of view, and I appreciate the work that you and Craig does and pre-reviewing all of these applications and so forth, it might be useful for us to just give all of the applicants a deadline that the applications must be in Craig's hands 7 days or however many days it is, whatever we settle on, so many days before the meeting. I don't think it's fair to Craig for him to get an application a day before the meeting and have to do a review of it.
I get that. I do. And I probably should have kept my mouth shut. I frequently, when I share my feelings, regret it for weeks thereafter. I don't want to formalize anything right now. I want Craig to have the latitude on some of this stuff. When he calls me or writes to me and says somebody in trouble or there's an emergency, or I don't care. I will not give him that latitude. I'll figure something out.
Yeah.
I think that our secret weapon in terms of keeping the public informed is actually the newest member of the team, Rebecca. And I will explain why. She has actually excellent computer skills. And she's offered more than once that as soon as we get apps in, that she'll post them. And that would go a long way towards transparency. It's something that we do, but we haven't done it consistently. And I actually think with her help, we can get better at this. And I apologize for complaining.
No apology needed, Phil. I have a question for Victoria regarding the legal posting that's required for the applications for our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to go through the newspaper? Can we simply post it on the city website?
So there's two different questions. The first is just your regular meeting, anytime there's a gathering of a quorum of the board. So those meetings have to be noticed and the public has to have advance notice. But at the beginning of the year, you identify that you're going to hold your meetings, what is it, the 2nd and 4th Friday of every month. That's a standing meeting. So that is sufficient. The public does not have to have the agenda in advance, although it's not good policy not to tell the public what is on the agenda. Once you have an agenda, it is allowed to be changed or updated as needed. I think it's good practice to have the agenda posted prior to the meeting so the public knows what's on it and how to attend. And you can always add something last minute if you have to in the event of an emergency. For public hearings, there are very specific requirements for planning applications and zoning applications. For HPC, your statute does not have great guidance on public hearing notification requirements. Phil, it doesn't require that notice be sent to the adjacent landowners. So Phil has been putting the notice in the paper. Back pre-COVID, it would also be posted at City Hall. I don't know if that's happening or is useful.
We did.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, as I said, we have half the world saying that the agenda didn't communicate the public hearing, and whatever, but we did.
So, I mean, it would be helpful moving forward when the board sets a public hearing, if Rebecca could just post a public hearing notice on the website under HPC. I mean, that's simple.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is it is a reasonable, like, it is reasonable to give them access to the application. And if we could just post what we have, like let's just do it. Easy for me to say, I don't know how to do it, but like I think if I were a member of we want the public to be informed. That's why we're doing the hearing, and giving them the documentation will help.
I think historically, I think it's been a budgetary issue because, you know, you don't have a full-time assistant. And so, you know, Rebecca is going to have to work out how many hours a week, but it sounds like she's saying she's able to do that. And I think that would be great because then the public can see what you're reviewing at the meeting.
Well, we'll do as much as what folks proposed. We're going to try to do all of it. I don't have a philosophical objection. I was merely whining. There's a difference.
Well, Phil, we appreciate the enormous amount that you do to make this go off, and it is a lot of work. And you as well, Craig, certainly Victoria, and Rebecca also. So
Craig does this for 4 different entities.
I know. Can you imagine? But I would also, but like it doesn't. But you know, we should. But the asks are not unreasonable despite that.
No, of course
they're not. Can be true. You can be extraordinary, and their asks can be reasonable. And if there's a budgetary issue, we should fundraise to get like whatever the clicks are to get that thing onto them.
I don't know if there is at this point. I'm just saying that that's historically been an issue, and you know, you guys can chat.
Or you can show me how to do it, Rebecca. And I'll try to help.
No.
All right.
No, John. I love you deeply, but I actually love Rebecca more. I trust her to do this.
If I were going to choose someone, I know who I would choose. Phil, is there any point? Can we add to the agenda? Can we discuss our nomination from this morning? Like it's still open, right?
I would prefer that we ask Shaheem to clear the room, and then absolutely.
Wait,
No, the meeting's still public. We want to.
You can't have you have to go into an executive session.
Did that. All right. We'll speak in code. I thought the credentials of the gentleman we talked to were super impressive and very interesting for what we're trying to get done, and very interesting for the future stuff that's coming down the turnpike. So what do y'all think?
I agree.
I nominated him, and I had no idea he was that accomplished.
It was pretty stunning in terms of the relevance of his competencies and his comfort talking about it and connecting it to preservation. So I don't think we need to be more formal than this. I don't know what previous chairs have done. I've nominated people in the past, probably inappropriately, but I would like to take this nomination to the mayor.
Okay.
I second that.
I agree.
10-4.
Great.
Cool.
All righty.
My story.
Adios. See you later.
I'm sorry I was unable to participate in that.
No, I'm sorry, Chip. I
discussion.
don't know why I do know why actually we didn't have a good cell number for you. So if you could shoot me that by mail, I will have that for next time.
I will do that.
Thank you so much, and God bless. It looks like a nice afternoon.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Phil.
Great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Aye.
I second.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.